Hello, everybody. This is Bob Dickerson. In the Black, coming to you on a Wednesday, as we always do. Wow. Got a few things to talk about this evening. I guess, it'd be impossible, just impossible not to talk about the Derek Chauvin verdict in the George Floyd case. And I'm going to share some things with you. Not just about the verdict, because I think we all know about that, and not just about the case, even though I'm sure I'll talk a bit about that, but some other thoughts that I've been having about that. But I do want to start by saying cheers to everyone. It's Wednesday evening. This is some Frenzy Sauvignon Blanc. Pretty nice. It's from Australia. Nice, crisp, a little tart. With notes of apricot and what's that big citrus fruit? Not an orange. Boy, I'm bad. I don't know my fruit. Anyway, the big citrus piece. Somebody put it in the chat. Tell me what I'm talking about. I don't know. But anyway, it's got those notes. It's pretty crisp. It's a good summertime drink, a good drink for when it's warm. Of course, it's not warm today. You see, I got a sweater on. I've had it on all day. I think the high today was something like 55. And yesterday, it was probably 75. So, boy, this changing weather. You know the old saying about Alabama says, if you don't like the weather, just wait a couple of days and it'll change. So I think we're seeing that right now with the changes in the weather. Hey, let me just mention a couple of things to you. First and foremost, if you're in business, the first thing you need to figure out how to do is to sell something. And you're also, if you're in business, very few business owners are going to be able to make it throughout their business career and not have to borrow money. And so if you need to borrow money, or if you think you'll ever need to borrow money, I just want to extend the services of me and my staff at the Birmingham Business Resource Center. A couple of things that we can do, and we do these well, and we've been doing it for a long time, is we can help you assess your credit worthiness. In other words, we can help you determine how much money you're likely to be able to successfully borrow. I did a workshop a few months back. It was called Getting Your Bank to Say Yes. That's what we do. We can help you make sure that your bank is going to say yes to your loan request. But in order to get the bank to say yes, you need to know a little something about what the bank is looking for. You need to know what they look for. You also need to know what they look at. And it would be so helpful for you to come to us and let us look at your stuff, your financial statements, your financial situation, your tax returns, your credit report. We want to look at that before you go and let them look at it, because if there are things that you need to work on, things that you need to change, maybe you need to modify your approach, maybe you need to change your loan request, then we want to help you do that. We don't want you to face this negative experience of going somewhere and getting a no. And so if there's something that we can do to make sure that you don't get no, then we want to do it. I want to say hello to William Spells. How you doing? Tamika Hinton. How are you doing? Tamika Hinton, out of office. Give her a call. Look her up. She's great. Does a great job. Spells, how you doing, man? I miss seeing you. I miss seeing you up at our spot. I'm not going to advertise for them, but I'm going to tell you, I miss seeing you up at our spot. And so anyway, use us. I mean, that's what we're there for. We've been doing this for 25 years almost. We're 25 years on November 22nd or 28th. I have to make sure I know the date. Pretty soon I'll figure that out. But 25 years, almost 25 years in service at the Birmingham Business Resource Center. That's how long we've been helping people start, grow, and develop businesses. And we just love doing that. You know, we love every minute of what we do. We love helping folks. Tomorrow, we have our City Source Opportunity Forum. City Source Opportunity Forum. You can go on our website, mybbRC.biz, mybbRC.biz, and actually register for that event. We're trying to make sure that you can sell something. Nothing happens until somebody sells something. Well, we've got folks coming on who have opportunities for you to sell. And so we're working with other organizations that are going to come on. Create Birmingham will have a representative on. Valley Bank tomorrow has a representative on, and as well as the City of Birmingham, a good partner of ours, the City of Birmingham. Their head of the Innovation and Economic Opportunity area, IEO, is going to be coming on. And so that's Carnell Wesley. He's relatively new. I've met him and met with him. Very smart. Really understands business, understands banking and finance. So we're happy to have them on. So check out the opportunity forum. You might learn something. You actually could win a prize. I think we're giving away a prize for a little contest toward the end. So can't give you too much about that. But again, check us out. Go on our website. And then I did mention this last week, and I want to mention it again. The law that says that banks will provide loans, services, and investments in our communities, in all communities, low and moderate income communities included, is something called the Community Reinvestment Act. And yes, the CRA is usually something that banks and nonprofit organizations that do what I do need to know about. But I think that it's important for individuals to know about it. And I also think it's important for our churches and religious institutions to know about it, because the way that CRA is most effectively delivered is through partnerships. And the folks in our community, the civic groups, the community-based organizations, the church-based CDCs, the housing counseling organizations, folks that fight for fair housing and fight for small business development, that we are the best conduits for banks to deliver CRA products and services through. So the more we know about the Community Reinvestment Act, the better off we are, and the better off we are, the better off our communities are. I'm saying all that to say this, that on May 18th, there is a free workshop. It's the BAR conference, Building Alabama Reinvestment. Building Alabama Reinvestment, BAR. We are raising the bar on community economic development in Alabama. So we have a conference that's here. Well, it actually is on Zoom. It's free of charge. I think there's a link you can find on this broadcast, a link on the buildingalabama.org. Buildingalabama.org is the website. So you can go check that out. And in that is free. You might say, well, it's not really my cup of tea. I'm not into that. It's free. Hear from some banks about what they're doing and what they're trying to do in your community. Maybe you get some ideas about, how you can help them help you. You're going to hear from some of our members. Our members are doing some outstanding things. So you'll hear from members like our Hispanic Interest Coalition of Alabama. You'll hear from them. You'll hear from others. You'll hear from the Hub CDC. I'm going to hold that one kind of close to the vest, because these folks are doing some outstanding work, and they have their hands on a major project in downtown Birmingham. I don't want to tell too much about it. But you'll also hear from the community action agencies from all over the state. These are people that actually help deal with folks who are impoverished and deal with people who need childcare, daycare, help with utility bills, all the things that people who might who are living below the poverty line might need. And it's our responsibility to help those folks. And so we want to do our part by exposing this information We have the Chief Executive Officer of the National Community Reinvestment Coalition speaking. Now, NCRC, and I've been the board chair there for the past 8 years, we have negotiated over $200 billion, 200 billion with a B, in community benefits agreements. These are agreements with banks to help build our communities, build an Alabama reinvestment. Well, these are community reinvestment dollars going to places like Birmingham, going to places like Mobile and Huntsville and other places in Birmingham. So yeah, you might not be a nonprofit organization, or you might not feel that this is something for you, but I guarantee you, if you tune in, it's from 9 to 11:30. Give us 2.5 hours. It's free of charge. Tune in. You're going to learn something, hopefully get encouraged. And even if you don't use it, maybe you can tell someone else. So that is the BAR conference, raising the bar for economic justice, economic development, economic empowerment in the state of Alabama. So check that out. So now, yesterday was this huge day. I watched this clip early this morning because I woke up real early, and I turned it on, and it had Franklin Delano Roosevelt on December 8th, 1941. Now, I wasn't born then. Maybe nobody that's listening to me was born then. But that was the morning or the day after the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. And he said that December 7th, 1941 is the day that will go down in infamy. Well, April 20th, 2021, the day that Derek Chauvin was found guilty on 2 murder and 1 manslaughter count for killing George Floyd, is also a day that will go down in infamy. It was quite refreshing to see what I felt was justice served. Because like many of us, I watched the 9 minutes with the knee on his neck and the seemingly unconcerned Chauvin, almost like a strutting peacock or banty rooster, sitting there with his knee on this man's neck, who we found out in the testimony during the trial had already passed away. That before Chauvin removed his knee and his weight, and he's not a big guy, but that's a lot of weight. If it's 150 or 60 pounds, think about that on your neck or your throat. That's a lot. But before he removed his body from this man's neck, George Floyd was already deceased. The life was already out of him. He had already met his maker. And it's so sad to really think about that. Refreshing from the standpoint that because of the publicity, because there were cameras, and I've heard a lot of news reports, I've heard a lot of the news reports that really gave and talked about the importance of the fact that this was videotaped and not by the police. It wasn't just on the body cam. It was by folks who stood by, watched, and actually tried to ask the officer and other officers, and they're going to be going on trial soon too, but tried to ask the officer to let him go. He's not resisting. He's handcuffed, for heaven's sakes. He's not moving. He's crying out for his mother. And this is a big guy crying for mother. Let him go. And what did Chauvin do? No, he didn't let him go. Stayed on his neck. And what we saw with our own eyes, we saw this man murdered. We saw him killed before our very eyes. And so the publicity that this case got, for the last oh my God, a year now. All the publicity that the case got, um, the kinds of things that it and others, Breonna Taylor, Rashad Brooks, but mainly those two, Breonna and George, and ones that had happened before where police had taken advantage, and killed unarmed, non-threatening Black folks. It created this awakening around how to police, this awakening around police brutality sharing, this awakening around race in policing, and how these kinds of things generally seem to happen to Black people: unarmed, non-threatening, fleeing murder, unarmed, non-threatening, choked to death by a policeman that uses his force, unarmed, non-fleeing, handcuffed, and murdered. And so that's, regardless of anything, a sad indictment on law enforcement in this country, a sad indictment on law enforcement in this country. But there was something else that happened yesterday that gave me pause and made me think about some things maybe in a different way. And I don't know if you all are going to agree with this. So I'm going to just have a sip before I get into it. Might need it. As I watched some of the demonstrations, and I do understand that this has got a lot of publicity and people wanted to exhale. People thought that justice was served when the jury came back with a guilty verdict. And folks were happy about the verdict. But I saw some exuberance in some of those crowds that really struck me as wrong. I'm just going to be honest with you. It struck me as being wrong. Yes, Chauvin was found guilty of murder. But it's hard for me to be happy about the whole thing. It's hard for me to jump around and cheer about the whole thing. Number one, George Floyd didn't see that. Well, you may see it with his heavenly eyes, with his eternal eyes, but George Floyd is gone. And so none of the conviction and trial or exuberance after the fact is going to do anything to bring him back. We can't bring him back. He's gone. He's gone. And that's not anything that should make any of us happy. Yeah, Chauvin got convicted, but some of that happiness and glee about the conviction, I think, is a little misplaced. I think it's maybe a lot misplaced. Because in a lot of ways, yeah, George Floyd, as I think his daughter said, Daddy changed the world. Yeah, George Floyd changed the world. But I don't think that we need to celebrate his death. And I think that in a lot of ways, when we celebrate the conviction of Derek Chauvin, in some ways that actually celebrates something that we shouldn't be celebrating. So I had I just felt that, and I'm happy that the conviction happened. I think it was right. I think justice was served. I think George Floyd's family got justice. But it's just hard for me to see this as a time to celebrate. That's just me. Hey, quick. What's up, cuz? I'm good. I'm good. I just don't see it as a time to celebrate. I just couldn't bring it. I couldn't bring myself to be exuberant. Happy about the verdict, thinking that's the right verdict, Can't celebrate it like I saw some of the celebrations. Now, some of the marches were good demonstrations, and I'm not trying to to paint with this big broad brush. I try not to do that. But I saw some over the top exuberance. And that situation is not a happy one. A police officer killed an innocent man, killed a man who didn't deserve to die. And it's happened since then. I mean, it just happened last week, you know, and 10 miles away from where George Floyd died. And so, and it's happened, I think there have been 100 incidents of police killing suspects or people in the last year. And so it's happening, and all too often it's happening to Black folks. And it happened way before George Floyd. And no conviction should make us so exuberant about this that we lose ourselves in glee, because this is not a happy situation. Certainly not a happy moment. And then there was this other thing that, you know, as I really thought about it, that brought something home to me. And I mentioned this last night briefly, but I have to mention it now because I'm in Birmingham, Alabama. And there are some communities that are maybe a little bit worse. But I think I looked at a stat, and Birmingham is not, as you know, we all are from here. So I got a couple of folks looking who are from somewhere else, and that's okay. Birmingham's no huge town. City limits population probably 230,000. Metro population probably 1.2, 1.3 million. Not a huge town, you know, not a huge city. So it's a small city, big town, small city. It's probably bigger than a big town. There have been, I want to make sure I get the number wrong, but 34 murders this year, and we're in April. Wow. I mean, it's amazing. I want to make sure I get it right. 34 homicides have been reported in the city as of April 20th, yesterday. 34 homicides have been reported in the city of Birmingham, a mid-sized American city, since April. An average of 9 a month. An average of 9 a month. One every 3 days. An average of 9 a month, one every 3 days, 34 since the beginning of 2021. We've heard about some of them. Children, innocent victims of drive-by shootings. A woman enjoying Easter Sunday, just out in the park having fun. Killed. And the sad thing, and we must admit this, is that the greater number of homicides in Birmingham are Black people killing Black people. Get mad at me because I'm just telling you the truth. The great majority are Black on Black. So here's what I want to say. And thank you for all of the folks that stepped up, voiced their opinions, marched and protested, and stayed vigilant when the police killed George Floyd. And there's still, there's still activity around the Breonna Taylor, the Rayshard Brooks, the Ahmaud Arbery, who wasn't police, but but it was still a murder. I want us to start getting as mad, active, and involved when these murders take place in our communities, against members of our communities, by members of our communities. We need to have folks to really stand up and protest these. And it shouldn't just be one or two. It ought to be all of us. So I'm going to add my voice to say that enough is enough. Enough is enough. Murder. Murder is one of the most foul words that the English language has ever produced. Murder. But we seem to be accepting that. We're accepting it. We're saying it with no feeling of remorse, regardless of whether it was somebody you knew or not, regardless of whether it was somebody you cared for or not. We gotta be remorseful when murders take place. We gotta be upset when murders take place. We gotta be more willing to speak out whenever they take place, whoever the perpetrator and whoever the victim. So it's not enough just to be pissed off when policemen kill Black folks, and we should. We ought to want to exact justice each and every time. Like we protested and we prayed and we locked arms and we believed that there would be justice in George Floyd's case. Well, I'm looking for some justice in some of these other cases. I think that we always have to get justice. We always have to get justice. And as a society, not only should murder hurt us all, but it's something that we ought to always speak out about and speak out against. Hey, I'm going to check you out next week. Have a great week. Be good. Cheers. This is Bob Dickerson with In the Black.